Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright, and I am here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete Wright.
Oh, hi, Nikki.
How are you?
It is an excellent start to our day,
right?
Those who are listening in the live stream, they got to hear a lot of technical foibles today.
Yes,
so many technical foibles.
And the end result is I am recording.
Outstanding, which is exactly what we want. We are, this was one of those conversations we're going to have today that was suggested to us by our dear missing friend this week. She's on vacation, Melissa, Discord mom. She suggested we do this, and I thought, okay, we'll do that. Melissa it's a good idea, and I didn't really think much of it until I started prepping for the show, and I realized I have strong feelings. I did not recognize just how strong my feelings were about all of this.
Well, and it's interesting because I was prepping for the show, and I'm thinking, I am so excited about talking about this.
I know there's a lot to get through, and so I'm very excited to be digging into this. We're talking about, she called it "Stop and Smell the Roses" working title, which I might as well make the actual title.
I think so.
I did call it in the live stream a rose-themed intervention. So
that's good.
We'll see kind of where it goes. But I'm very excited to talk about this. Before we do that, head over to TakeControlADHD.com. You can get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to the mailing list, and we will send you an email each time a new episode is released. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, or Pinterest at Take Control ADHD. But to really, really connect with us, head over to our Discord community. The ADHD Discord community is great. It's super easy to jump into the general community chat channel. Just visit TakeControlADHD.com/Discord for that open invitation, and you'll be whisked right over. You can sign up or sign in. If you are looking for a little bit more and want to see the double secret, triple secret channels that are for our members, you just have to become a patron. Patreon is listener-supported podcasting. With a few dollars a month, you can guarantee that we continue to grow, that our community thrives, and you can be a part of the vast array of supporting members in the ADHD Discord community. And I've heard it is like magic. When you sign into the general community, you just see one or two channels, and then you become a patron and connect it to your Discord account, and boom, so many channels show up. So very excited about that. And I think you know, Nikki, what comes next.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
How excited I am that it is once again time for me to talk about TextExapander. Oh, TextExapander, these fantastic supporters of the ADHD podcast. I adore TextExapander, and they're back because you told them to come back. And you would know if you were a patron and showed up to Coffee with Pete once a month, where we talk about tools and technology. Every single month, somebody comes up and says, hey, I finally wrapped my head around TextExapander, and it's amazing. So that's why you check out TextExapander. It is an incredible invisible tool in my tool chest. It's just always there running in the background. It's just waiting for me to type a snippet, a few keys on my keyboard, and then boom, it just expands into a lot of text. So here's how it works. You store text that you type often, and you put it in the TextExapander library, and you assign a snippet to it. So that a snippet is just a few keys that you type. And when you type those keys, it expands the text that you type often so that you don't have to retype it or risk errors or risk, missing something important. It's just always there when you need it. And this month, Nikki, I go through my TextExapander library looking for something new to talk about. And I realized there's a thing that I haven't talked about regarding TextExapander that is a fantastic snippet that I didn't create. I got it from someone on the web. It is an AppleScript snippet that works with tabs. Now, I know you're a tab person, right? You love tabs?
What do you mean by
browser?
Tabs?
On your browser. Like you open a lot of tabs?
Oh, yeah.
When you're researching something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll save them.
You'll save the tabs, like as bookmarks.
Right.
Okay. So the way I research, and people ask me all the time, how do you use tabs? Like I have, especially people in this community, oh, I open 100 tabs. I constantly have 100 tabs. I've got a friend who has 100 tabs open in his primary browser and another 100 in a secondary browser just because the first browser started to slow down. So he, like hundreds of tabs. He says, I just research, when I research, I open a new tab and then I leave it there until I'm ready to come back to it. And I thought, well, I don't do that. I open tabs and then I close them. But I forget a key step, and it involves this text expander snippet. So when I'm researching, I usually have a note open, and I'm writing in this note, and I look at my browser, and I read the tabs. This snippet allows me to go into my note and type STDUML, and it's a weird snippet. Don't know why it's called that, but if I type it in all caps, it goes to my open browser and creates a bulleted list of the titles and links to all the pages that are currently open in tabs. And then I close the browser.
That's cool.
That's all it does. It lets me just capture in a list all of the tabs that I have open. And I grabbed this snippet from Thought Asylum, and it works like a charm. I have one version of it for Safari, which is my primary browser on my Mac, and one for Chrome, which is my secondary browser on my Mac. And it just lets me capture tabs. And that keeps my desktop clean. It lets me know exactly where my research stands at any given point, and it's all thanks to TextExpander. It is a beautiful way to automate the research process for me and capture the tabs I need when I need them. TextExpander is available on Mac, Windows, Chrome, iPhone, and iPad. And for listeners of the ADHD podcast, you can get 20% off your first year of service. Just visit takecontroladhd.com/TextExpander, and you will be whisked over to our page on their site where you can get started. Again, 20% off your first year. The way we work is changing rapidly. Make work work the way your brain works by saying more in less time and with less effort using TextExpander. Our great thanks to the TextExpander team for sponsoring the ADHD podcast.
It is time to stop and smell the roses. So yes, it's sad that Melissa had this great idea, and then this happens to be the week that she's on vacation, that she can't join our conversation, but she's here in spirit for sure.
She's actually here in Discord, but she's showing up as a little moon asleep in our member chat, our live stream chat. So I don't know if she's actually listening.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully she's having some fun. Yes, but this topic, it's about like stopping and smelling the roses. You know, it started off with, there is so much information and resources around improving your life, that self-improvement, I mean, there's a whole section in the bookstore, right, around self-improvement. Whether you have ADHD or not, a lot of information is thrown at you. And it was interesting because I was just talking to somebody recently about when you're diagnosed with ADHD for the first time, the doctors will give you maybe a little bit of information, maybe give you a pamphlet, they'll prescribe you some medicine, and then, you're on your way. Like, they don't really talk a whole lot more around of just what it is, right?
Yeah.
So there's tons of books and webinars and podcasts like us. And these are all great information resources, but it can be a lot, and it can be really overwhelming of knowing where to start, especially when you feel like everything is important to know right now. And do you remember a long time ago, we were talking about something, and I made the reference of, it's like having a bunch of tennis balls being thrown at you at the same time. And that's still what I see. It's like information around distraction, focus, procrastination, time management, memory, like emotional dysregulation, like all of these things are just being thrown at you. And what she was saying, and where her idea was coming from, is that we really allow this desire of self-improvement and rigid structure to be our life. Like, it defines who we are. So we're constantly looking for information on how to do things different, or how to actually not do things different, but fit into what we think neurotypicals need us to fit into.
Right.
Does that make sense? Is
Yeah,
that how you
right.
kind of
Well,
saw this?
that's kind of the whole lesson that we are being taught, right, in school and work, and all the accommodations that we get aren't they designed to level the playing field so that we fit in a neurotypical world? And I think that is the initial effort that we all sort of go through after a new diagnosis. How do I find a way to feel normal?
Well, and then it's frustrating because then the symptoms of ADHD come up when we're trying to look for this research, because then there's this like perfectionism thing that happens. And a lot of times I call it all or nothing thinking. And it's a trap, because in our mind here, so many things are going on in the mind, and everything has to change, and it all needs to do, we all need to do it right now. And I love in the notes, Melissa had put, you have a goal to be the best ADHD ever. You want to just take,
I'm going to master ADHD.
I'm going to master it. And, I have to do everything right all the time. And, and it's interesting because she talks about employing every app and strategy and ADHD trick in the book to keep a tight hold on you and your schedule. And this belief that if you loosen it even just slightly, everything's going to fall apart, and you're going to be considered a failure to yourself and everyone around you. And it's a terrible way to live when you're always feeling like this burden is holding you down and you're not good enough.
Something like you mentioned, the tennis balls coming at you. Trying to hold 100 tennis balls in your arms at any time is fruitless. Like you're never going to be able to hold on to all of those things. That metaphor really rings for me. I can hold one tennis ball in each hand, maybe two.
Yeah.
I can hold them reliably and consistently, but I can't hold 100. And I've learned this in many ways the hard way. You look at, I go back and forth between, like, when I want to try a new to-do system, I try all the to-do systems at the same time to see how they work in any given time. But once I'm done, I pick one and I hold on to it zealously. And it is a long time between trying out new systems for me, because that's one tennis ball I can reliably count on and hold on to. And I think that's part of the thing that you get through when you realize, okay, I could try all the ADHD accommodations that I can come up with, but I can live my life with just a few. I can live my life if I'm mindful and practice just a few. I don't need all of them all the time.
It's so true. And, I was talking to somebody in the GPS group recently, and one of the things that she was concerned about is that she had a lot of things going on, and she was afraid that she was missing out on some of the resources of GPS because she didn't have the time to really dig into some of the information that we have available to our members. And something that I said is I told her, and it's very similar to what you're saying, is that, just focus on one thing. So if there's one thing in your planning system that you feel isn't working as well as you would like it to work, just look for that. And don't feel like you have to know the whole system, or that everything has to be, this way or that way. Just focus on what you need right now, and don't focus on anybody else, because there's this also this tendency. And this is what she said, is that, I'm in GPS and I'm looking at everybody and it feels like everyone's working and doing their thing. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not all working in the way that you think they're working. They're working exactly like you. Like, they're just taking pieces and figuring out where they need to be at that moment. And some of them are following the process, and some of them are still on a certain step. And so don't compare yourself to other people, and don't compare yourself to other ADHDers, because it's just not fair. And really focusing just on what you need and what works for you. Because you're never really going to get the full picture. I mean, what you think isn't necessarily really true. Right. So
because it's like there is a little bit of the Instagram complex with a tool like GPS, right? With a service like GPS, or with the Discord community. And I think one of the nice things about Discord is that people, I think, are more vulnerable in this community because it's sort of protected. We know that the people who are in here are all in here for the same reason. But it's really hard when you just start researching not to get the Instagram feeling that everything that you're getting from people on TikTok and Instagram who are presenting their ADHD, the way they're presenting it, aren't already masters of their ADHD.
Right.
But the truth is much more complicated. It doesn't mean that what you're seeing right now isn't a snapshot of their experience of perfection, but it does mean that when the camera turns off, they're probably in as much disarray as you are at any given moment, from any given moment to any given moment in the future. And I think that's really important to remember, to give yourself space and freedom to actually feel the way you feel and not resent all the tools that don't work for you right away, and not resent the things that you aren't able to do today because you're so busy trying to master ADHD.
Yeah.
That I think is the setup for this for me.
Well, and I also feel like that next step is also, and this is not a linear process at all, because you're going to go in waves of it for sure, but that acceptance of where ADHD affects you. And sometimes it can be louder on certain days than it will be on other days. And, we have to look at it as you as a whole person. If you didn't get a good night's sleep, if you didn't eat if you didn't have healthy food that day, you didn't get any exercise, your ADHD is going to be louder, even with medication. It's all of the stuff that kind of goes in together. And it's something to realize, because I think if you can see that, okay, let me separate this ADHD from who I am as a person, because you're not a bad person because you didn't have a good night's sleep and you're on edge. Like, that makes sense. It makes sense that your ADHD is a little louder today, or that you're in a situation that you're not comfortable in. And so you tend to shut down, or you're facing a list of things to do and you don't know where to start and it's overwhelming. Like, that is the ADHD speaking up. Right. And one of the things that you have said, and I love that Melissa put this in her own research, is that it's not a moral failure to not get things done. And I want you to expand on that. I want you to talk a little bit more about that.
If you haven't experienced this and you're getting your handle on ADHD, you will, right? When you look at let's say you're exploring time blocking and you're exploring managing your task list across time and trying to figure out what makes the most sense. When you don't get everything done that you committed to yourself that you were going to get done, it is just a slight left turn to go from, oh, I didn't get everything done, to I'm a bad person for failing myself and the commitment that I made to myself that I would get this done. I am a bad person. And I haven't met anybody going through, trying to live in partnership with their ADHD that hasn't felt this way, that you just feel like, I have failed morally because I failed to get this task done, or I have let somebody down, or I have, I missed an appointment, or I missed a meeting, or I was, late, or missed picking up my kid. My kid had to call me from school to remind me to come get them. All of those things feel like moral wrongs, and they're not. They're not moral wrongs. You're not a bad person because you dropped the ball on a calendar event. You dropped the ball on a meeting. You're a human being, and humans are complex organisms, and you've got to let that good, bad conversation go. The reality is, what it's going to mean to your life is, you might have something to catch up on. You might have to eat a little crow and say, I'm sorry, I screwed up. And then it goes away.
Right.
It goes away. 99.9% of the time, if you're able to own up to the fact that you screwed up and now it's time to reschedule a meeting, it goes away. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I totally agree. And I think it's about, moving forward. It's like, okay, this happened, but I can move away from it. I can move forward. And I think that sometimes a lot of ADHDers are so stuck in the past and what they've heard and seen and felt, that it's hard to think that, oh, maybe there's a different way. Maybe there's a different way not to only do this, but a different way of thinking about it. So it's not
Right.
necessarily, oh, next time I will get that thing done. It's maybe next time I put too much on my list and I need to be a little bit more realistic about what I can get
Right.
done in a day. So we're shifting our mindsets around it. And something that Casey Davis said when she was on our show is care tasks are morally neutral. Mess has no inherent meaning. When you look at a pile of dishes in the sink and think, I'm such a failure, that message did not originate from the dishes. Dishes don't think. Dishes don't judge. Dishes cannot make meaning. Only people can. And I think that's really, really powerful. I think with ADHD, I know that people have probably heard this before, but I think it is always worth shouting at the top of the mountain. You are not broken and you do not need to be fixed. You're not a piece of furniture. There's nothing wrong. We all have different ways of how we process, how we think, how we get things done, what we can get done. So it's very important for people to know that.
This is a good question, though. Like I've heard this before, and I've run into this, talking to others who disagree that your ADHD doesn't define you. But a lot of people live their lives believing that ADHD does define them, that every waking moment is somehow ruled by their relationship with ADHD. What do you say to that?
I would say that that's unfortunate. And it's probably something to keep thinking about if it's in the sense that it's really pulling you down, right? Like, because if you're always looking at your ADHD and you're saying, this is who I am, and then the next sentence is, I'm a failure, I can't do anything, I'm not as good enough, I'm not as good as anybody, like I'm not good enough, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's not going to serve you. I think that ADHD affects every aspect of your life. Absolutely. But it's also really important that we focus on just not the strategies and the things that can help you, but we really focus on how does it affect me and how do I accept that that's what it is, and be able to find joy and still be happy. And does ADHD make certain things harder? Absolutely. So it's important that you pick the right job, that you pick the right partner, that you've got the people around you who support you and love you no matter what. So I think it's a part of you, but I don't want it to define you, because it's not who you are as a person, of how caring you might be, how compassionate, how kind, because the things that ADHDers forget to do, or, are hard to do, it's not the intention to hurt someone. That's not what it is. And so I think it's important that you acknowledge and you manage your ADHD and navigate through it. But I would really encourage somebody not to have it define you. There's too much in life, and life is too fragile. I mean, I had a terrible experience in the last couple of weeks. And unfortunately, my 17-year-old daughter had to face how fragile and how quickly life can be taken away. And that is always a reminder of find and do the things that make you happy. And if you're in a bad job, start looking for a new one.
Yeah.
If you have toxic people around you that aren't supporting you, I would start thinking about maybe hanging out with some different people.
Yeah.
We get to write our own stories. And that's what I would say. Yeah, you have ADHD, but you know what, Pete? The first thing I think of when I think of you is not your ADHD at all. Doesn't even, it's there. And we talk about it every week.
Yeah.
But that's not how
right.
I wouldn't say, oh, yeah, my great friend Pete Wright. And he has ADHD.
Yeah.
Just want you to know that.
ADHD, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's what he is. Like, no, it wouldn't happen that way.
But that's a really important reflection, Nikki, too, because I think that is a reminder that the way people look at us is not the way the way we look at ourselves.
Mm-mm.
Right? That we have perseverative ADHD thought spirals that others don't see.
Right.
They don't see until you call it out.
Right.
Right. And I think that's okay. Now I might be lying to myself. Like, yeah, probably people see ADHD in me from time to time. Right. But that's not to say that it becomes, as you said, a defining characteristic of my identity. That's the important part.
And I would still push back a little bit on that. Like, when you're around people and maybe you don't know if they have ADHD or not, there might be some signs that kind of come up when you know ADHD because you live with it, and you understand it. And I, not living with it, but certainly have a lot of knowledge around it with everything that,
right?
With all of my work. I might be able to see it, but then I might not either because it's such a hidden thing sometimes. And I think that's where people mask themselves so well that someone could be struggling and you wouldn't know that they're struggling. And I don't know. It's an interesting, because I can see, like, I'm just thinking, like, I can see spurts of like my daughter and like, okay, that's definitely her ADHD. But then there's other times where, again, like with you, same thing with her. I don't look at her and think, oh, she has ADHD, so this is why she does this, this, and this. No, she's Paige, and she's a wonderful young lady. And,
But it never really crosses your mind that she might be carrying around these exhausting feelings of overwhelm that she's that she's let something else drop, or she hasn't turned in an assignment, that she's waiting to write an important email to a counselor, that whatever, she might not even know what those things are. Yeah. They're just present. It's the feeling of, and I'll say this personally, because I know what it's like to feel like I've dropped or am about to drop the ball, I might always feel like the ball's about to drop. Right? There might be a non-specific ball out there that's not even assigned to a specific responsibility that I have, and I still feel guilt and shame because it's about to drop all the time, right? Like, this is, again, you can't hold 100 tennis balls.
You can't hold 100 tennis balls. And I think it's also why community is so important around the ADHD community, especially because it's important to know that you're not alone in these feelings. And that, whenever I've done coach groups or group coaching and in GPS, that is always the thing. And in Discord, when we do happy hours and coaching with Nikki and coffee with Pete, those are the things that are always coming up that, oh my gosh, I totally get what this person is saying. I understand that. They don't have to explain themselves. They get it. And I think that that's where it's really important to rely on community. That's part of your navigating through ADHD. And what I think is so awesome about our community, Pete, I did a coaching with Nikki yesterday, and I hardly spoke because this person brought up a question, and I was going to answer it, and I said, no, does anybody else have anything that they want to add before I say anything? And for 50 minutes, this small group of people were talking to each other about how they perceive it. And it was positive. It wasn't all like, oh yeah, I hate that too. No, it was people speaking up saying, hey, have you thought of it this way? Like, this really helped me when I went through something very similar. And I mean, I loved it. I loved every minute of it because, just seeing these folks embrace each other like that is a huge thing. So find your community.
Well, and I think this is, so getting back to what I think Melissa's initial intent was with this conversation is rediscovering the joy of the things about you that you love that aren't necessarily ADHD.
That's right.
And she wrote The Joy of Missing Out, a Discord Mom original.
JOMO.
Which I love, JOMO, right? We've talked about FOMO and FOBO, and now we have The Joy of Missing Out, which I love.
I do too.
Learn to find the exuberance that comes from saying no to something.
Yes.
And that's really hard. Like, let's acknowledge how hard that is, especially with ADHD. If you have if you happen to have the particular switch flipped where you just have to please people and you just say yes to everything, it's really hard to retrain yourself to just say, I can't do that thing right now. I don't have the available capacity to do that thing right now. Even if you might have the capacity to do that thing, you might not have the margin around everything else that you're currently committed to. We did a whole show on margin and ADHD,
We did.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
it was great.
how much space are you giving yourself around your existing commitments so that you can, adapt to emergencies that come up in your life? And if you just keep saying yes, eventually your margin gets very, 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 very small.
It does.
And you can't adapt anymore.
But I also want to say
Why are you
something.
so excited? You're so excited right now.
Because as an introvert, I want to talk to all the introverts out there because I am one. I love being home, and I am happy to be home, and I will stay at home for the rest of my life, and I could be happy. But it's not healthy. And so this is the exception that I want to say is for all the introverts out there, say yes sometimes. Not all the time, but say yes to the things that bring you joy and refill that spirit in you.
Yeah.
Because that is so important. And I did this. I'm practicing what I preach. A couple weeks ago, I asked my friend if her and her husband wanted to go out on the boat with us. It was just the four of us. And she's like, yeah, that sounds like, great. We're going to do Sunday fun day. And I am so glad I did it. Being outside, being with great people, being with, great food and drinks and just this beauty that we live in, it was just so much fun. And I'm so glad I did it. So that's to the introverts. Do say yes sometimes, but to the things that bring you joy.
That's the real trick, because, if you're not like, if you're at capacity, if you have no margin, you're not saying yes to anything.
No,
right?
That's
what we're
different.
saying is you have to live your margin. Like, you have to understand that there are things in your life that aren't related to ADHD that you might love. For me, it's like cataloging movies, watching movies that I love, or catching up on TV shows, or going on long drives. I love driving. I love to drive. Like, those are things I don't do when I'm not, when I know I'm not at my best. It's because I'm not saying yes to any of those opportunities. I'm just doing the responsibility stuff. It means my margin is very small, and I start resenting my choices. I resent myself for not being able to do the things that I love to do.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that's really important, is finding that balance.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so one of the other things that I wanted to say, and we can wrap it up here. One of the things that Melissa had wrote down for us to talk about, and I highlighted it because I was like, yes, I believe in this so much. Giving your free time and downtime the same amount of importance as everything else on your schedule. And this really relates to what Pete just was talking about with the margins. Like, you got to balance that so that you have space, to do the things you enjoy, and also to do the things that, you need to do. And she wrote, time blocking gives you freedom. And I know there are probably so many people right now who are shaking their heads, probably flipping us off right now. Like, no, it doesn't. It's structure. Yeah. It's putting me in a box that I don't want to be in. It doesn't work for me. I can hear everything in my head because I've heard everything. And what I love about this mindset is that it is so hard to put ourselves first when we are so demanded, right? We are in demand. Yeah. And we were talking about this last night in the coaching with Nikki. And one of the things I said was, make it a priority, like time block just 30 minutes a week to work on whatever it is that you want to do. And I'm not even going to say work. It is to do whatever you want to do. And we were talking about hobbies and things like that. And we talked about like just letting your ADHD go free, like just do whatever. But block that time for 30 minutes a week so that you have it. And, what happens is if we don't make the time for it, if we don't time block it, it then really becomes out of our control because the weekend will pass and we won't have done anything that we really wanted to do. And we're going to feel again like we failed in some way. And what I want people to think about is that even if you don't do the 30 minutes when you blocked it out to do, you will get reminded and you'll get to make a choice on whether you want to do that or you want to do something different. But at least you've been empowered to make that choice. But without it being in front of you, that power is taken away.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is hugely important. And I see this anytime. I'm with you. Like everybody who doesn't like time blocking comes back and says, well, it fails for me because invariably I time block a whole week and then I come back and I've missed all of the time blocks because I wasn't looking at my calendar. I'm not paying attention to it. That's okay. That's not a failure of time blocking, right? That's not a failure of time blocking.
It's like what Ari Tuckman says, the alarm did its job.
The alarm did its job. Yeah. And you know what else? I think the problem is this. There is a switch that I think helps you get over the hump of time blocking, which is celebrate, one, the act of time blocking, right? The act of protecting time for both work and personal time that says, I'm going to be intentional about what I do in this block of time. Mm-hmm. And two, celebrate even harder the act of rescheduling your time blocking.
Yes.
And people celebrate time blocking because it's great and it feels good. It feels like you're powerful and in control and you have agency. And then they screw up and they resent rescheduling. Until you fall in love with rescheduling at the same degree and intensity and passion that you fell in love with time blocking, you're going to screw up time blocking and feel bad about it. And there's no reason to do that. If you just realize I'm protecting time so I can protect myself. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to reschedule block time. Mm-hmm. It's really okay. Mm-hmm. I get kind of fired up about it because I don't believe that time blocking is a failed system. I believe in it so much.
I do.
You don't have to time block every single minute of your time. Nope. Absolutely not. But you have to protect the most important time. You cannot just live by your to-do list and say everything's going to get done because work equals time. Yes. Tasks equal time. I feel like I'm ranting.
No, I love it. I love your passion because I am 100% with you. I totally agree. And anytime that is faced where, I can't do time blocking, oh man, I push back. I'm like, wait a minute. Let's talk about why you think that. How are you getting anything
done? Yeah, you're just accidentally stumbling into successfully completing tasks. If you don't actually tell yourself, I'm going to take this time right now to do this thing. Mm-hmm. I just believe so deeply in it. Yeah. And to the point of this show, if you're doing that, if you're protecting time to get the things done on your list that you need to do, whether that's study or write a paper or complete your TPS reports, what you're also doing by extension is protecting the time at home, protecting the time on your weekend so that you can do the things you love.
Yes.
So you can smell more roses. Fall in love with rescheduling and you will smell more roses.
Mic drop. Woo! That was great, Pete.
Yeah, I feel strongly about that.
This is where we need to stop. I love it. Great job.
Well, this is really fun. Deep thanks to Melissa. And I should say that Melissa, she is on vacation and she is talk about living her best vacation. She and her son are at Hersheyland and she's sending me pictures right now. They're on rides. I've got pictures of with the Reese's peanut butter cup mannequin wandering. She's just having a delightful time.
Are you going to post those? I want to see them.
I don't get to post those. I'm not going to repost her pictures. She just sent them to me, but she should send them to all of us because she is loving smelling roses that all smell like chocolate. That's what I am imagining right now. And I'm so, I thrilled that she is able to do that with her family. That is fantastic. So, in the spirit of vacation and go smell some roses, thank you everybody for hanging out with us and dealing with my passion on this subject a little bit.
I love it.
I sure appreciate it. Thank you for downloading and listening to this show. Thank you all for your time and attention. Don't forget, if you have something to contribute to this conversation, we're heading over to the Show Talk channel in our Discord server, and you can join us right there by becoming a supporting member at the deluxe level or better. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll see you right back here next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.